Greens.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The good news is that the South Australian Parliament has today declared a climate emergency. And when I say good news, of course, Madam Speaker, I use that word cautiously because the fact that we're in a climate emergency is not good news. It's the worst of possible news. But the truth has now been acknowledged by the South Australian Parliament, by more than 1,000 local governments and jurisdictions around the world, and as I mentioned earlier this week, the Glenorchy City Council will be debating a climate emergency motion brought on by Alderman Kelly Simms on Monday the 30th of September. Of course, it's in stark contrast to how this Parliament responded to our move to declare a climate emergency or on supporting the climate strike. And in this Parliament, on this issue, we regard the major parties as on a unity ticket. And after last night uniting to vote against the Greens' motion to support the climate strike movement, today our colleagues in here refuse to take responsibility. The Liberals claim to be global leaders, yet are planning to log 356,000 hectares of natural carbon sink forests. Those forests are a gift to the world and to future generations, Madam Speaker. In estimates this year, when we asked the then Resources Minister, Ms Courtney, what the plan was for that vast carbon bank, the statement from the Minister was that there were no plans to log those forests. And now, in Parliament this week, we hear from the Premier, from the Treasurer and, of course, from the Minister for Resources, that these forests are regarded as a wood bank. Well, if you believe the science, as Dr Woodruff and I do, you will know that they are in fact a carbon bank, Madam Speaker. And we've had a little bit more dishonesty from the government today on forest stewardship certification, of course, haven't we? Because we know that the interim report went to Sustainable Timbers Tasmania. We had that confirmed by SGS Global. But the government's statement to try to obfuscate the fact that STT has failed to achieve forest stewardship certification says the government has not received the interim report. Well, of course. Probably said, don't give it to us. And then the next statement is the Sustainable Timber Tasmania spokesperson saying Sustainable Timber Tasmania has not received the FSC audit report. You're being tricky with language. We know what you're up to here. The interim report went to STT on the 31st of May this year, 4 months ago. Clearly, no one in government asked for the interim report, and now Sustainable Timbers Tasmania is stating that it hasn't got the final audit report. We know that STT has failed FSC certification. We know that. And the fact that the Minister this morning couldn't deny it tells us everything that we need to know. And of course, Labor. At their last state conference, what did they do? They voted for a motion. Motion 28 on forestry. Labor also believes Tasmania now has the appropriate balance between timber production and conservation of its forests. 29. Labor does not support the establishment of any new reserves such as the Tarkine National Park, Tarkine World Heritage Area, nor the transfer of any other timber production forests into reserves. So that is Labor slapping children in the face again. Those 356,000 hectares of high conservation value carbon sink forests which were set aside as the second tranche of reserves under the Tasmanian Forest Agreement were always intended to go into reserves because of their high conservation value. And of course, Madam Speaker, in a time of climate emergency, it is even more critical that they be protected. And Labor, woeful Labor, couldn't even get up in this place today and defend themselves on a censure motion. And Labor, woeful, pathetic Labor, could only last night vote to acknowledge the climate strikers, not to support them. Madam Speaker, we acknowledge all manner of sins and wicked people exist. Scott Morrison, Donald Trump and the Liberal and Labor coal-loving donors, but we would never support them. That's the difference between supporting and acknowledging something. Hand-wringing and lip service are meaningless, Madam Speaker. How we vote is why we are here. It is the power of our vote that demonstrates our accountability to Tasmanians. And I hear that the Treasurer, after I got turfed this morning for standing up for young people on climate, had a crack at me, said I was unable to control myself. Well, to coin one of his phrases, I make no apologies for being passionate about climate action and the protection of our forests and the future of young people. Young people need a voice in this Parliament, Madam Speaker, not excuses, and we will be that voice Madam Speaker. They need leadership, they need climate champions, and it's clear that they won't be found in the Liberals or Labor, regrettably. For every young person who looks to us for leadership, they will know that Elise Archer, Guy Barnett, Shane Broad, Jenna Butler, Sarah Courtenay, Anita Dow, Michael Ferguson, Peter Gutwin, Ella Haddad, Sue Hickey, Will Hodgman, Jennifer Houston, Roger Yench, David O'Byrne, Jackie Petrusma, Jeremy Rockcliffe, Joan Ryler, Mark Shelton, Alison Standen, John Tucker and Rebecca White voted not to support the climate strike. They let down thousands of Tasmanians, particularly those who attended the strike, and then they voted, like Ms Standen, voted to water down our motion to remove the support and hope for young people. Disgraceful performance, Madam Speaker, disgraceful. So, it is a conscience issue. It is a conscience issue. It is.
Order, order. Now, I am very unimpressed with this behaviour, Ms O'Connor. This is
Could you
just
be specific, please, Madam Speaker?
Yes, I think it's disgraceful. You are trying to shame people. You are two opinions in the whole parliament. It doesn't make your opinion correct. I do not believe the people you have named did not vote to support the climate change. In fact, if I could see that motion, the one that was voted on, it actually does recognise the strike.
Well,
right, and so you will not bully and intimidate people in this parliament.
Bully and intimidate.
You have done nothing but be cranky and rude all day, and I ask you now to leave this chamber because you have
bully
finished.
And intimidate.
That is exactly how we feel. Is that not the way?
Well, Madam Speaker, your vote speaks for itself.
Good. Now leave the room. Thank you, Ms Stanton.